unmute myself there. Welcome back to the Member Services Roundtable Part 4. I am joined by my colleagues that will introduce themselves in just a second. Many of you have joined us before, but if you haven't, just know you are muted currently, so keep yourself muted unless you are speaking. Please use the chat box for any questions that you may have. We are going to be monitoring, so if you put it in there, it is fair game. We may call you out. And then we'll get started in just a second. So I'm going to have the lovely ladies that are with me introduce themselves and we'll get going.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor, Membership Services Manager at Virginia Tech. Another cool thing that we do on these calls, if it's really helpful whenever you guys speak up or talk, is if you put your university's name next to your name by renaming yourself on your Zoom profile. It's really helpful just so we don't have to introduce ourselves all the time. Glad to have you all here.
Hi, I'm Melissa Bates from Southern Oregon University. I'm Assistant Director of Operations, Facilities, and Fitness. Southern Oregon University is a small university, so I can speak for other small schools, or I can answer questions for other small schools or have conversation about that.
Hey, last but not least, Victoria from Clemson University, Associate Director for Member Services and Aquatics.
Perfect. So we're going to get started today kind of talking about our members and getting back into the swing of things. So is anybody having limitations on who they're allowing into the building when they reopen? So have these been conversations you're having? Are you going to let alumni come back? Are you going to let your community members come back? Or is it just going to start off with just your students or just your faculty staff, just so you get the swing of things? We want to hear from you.
Okay, so Southern Oregon, like I said, is a small school and we are in the reopening planning and I'm hoping that it'll be coming up soon. We are limiting our reopening to just students and the few faculty staff members that we have. We're not going to be having guest passes or alumni or community memberships going on for the first phase of our opening. So we only can have a capacity of 65 people in our facility at one time. So that's kind of where we are with that decision.
For us at Oakland University, as of right now, we are planning on allowing at least our current community members back into our facility when we reopen, and then along with our faculty, staff, and our students. However, we are going to completely eliminate guest passes, new memberships, kind of eliminating those extra people in the building that haven't already been there, just so we can try to figure out how to accurately and safely serve our current members and then start reopening it as we continue our phases.
Lynn Wilson,
do you want to talk about being open?
Yes, I was just that. Yes, please speak on that.
I sort of figured I'd get asked a couple questions about that. Hi, Nick. We opened on Monday. Our county over here in Western Colorado received an exemption where we were able to open places of worship, gyms, and restaurants on a limited basis. So we opened up Monday. Lots of protocol work through, write the protocol, rewrite the protocol, retrain staff, lots of changes by the hour, but we did it. I refer to it as ripping the Band-Aid off because we kept talking about it, how it would look, hypothetically, and we just did it. It's gone pretty smoothly. We're not allowing any guest passes. I just heard you guys talking about that. I was a couple minutes late. Students are mostly the ones coming in. We've had a few alumni and faculty, people who already have memberships, but it's gone pretty well. The toughest part for us is we're not allowing, over in Mesa County, we have to have a 10-foot social distance space in the gym. And we'd gone through the gym, Michael and I, the assistant director, we'd gone through the week before and plotted out on the 6-foot social distance plan. And that works really well. Just about every other piece of equipment is 6 feet away. When it became 10, that was a game changer. So a lot more equipment's tagged out. And we are not allowing spotting with as far as when lifting weights, like on a bench. That's probably the least popular rule we have, and probably the hardest rule for our 20-year-old staff to enforce with 20-year-olds. Because they're like, well, how am I going to lift? Well, use weight appropriate amounts is what I've said. So that's been the hardest. Lots of people, common comment is, well, we're roommates. You know, they come in together. I can't know, everybody would be everybody's roommate, right? If we allowed that. So we just say you got to spread out when you're in the gym. And most people, when we explain that, like, we can't control who knows who's roommates, and they're pretty awesome about it. So I see a couple questions. We've only opened a part of it. Nice comment, Nick. We've opened a part of the gym. We've opened just our main fitness area, which is, yes, free weights, some hammer strength lifting equipment, cardio equipment, and some pre-core selectorized equipment. However, we're embarking on an entire new floor project starting on Monday. So we've opened the gym with this portion, but Sunday night we're shutting that down, and I'm having to shift it to the other half of the building, which is a bunch of small spaces. So our challenge next week, we'll have similar things. We'll have less leg machines. So leg day is going to change up for some people. But we have more small spaces. So our staff is going to have to enforce, like right now, we were letting 30 people in, and then they go into one large room. So it wasn't much management. Next week, we'll let 30 people in, but I can only have 3 in this space and 5 over here. And so that's going to be more work on staff. We're going to kind of plot that out tomorrow. So, so yes, we've tried to open a little bit of everything. We obviously don't have courts. Courts are not allowed to be open. Pool's not open. So no basketball, racquetball, no group X. But as far as weight, so we have our staff cleaning consistently. Then I have a couple employees who come in and clean at the end of the shift. And then at night, custodial staff comes in with one of those misting electrostatic cleaners and sprays everything down. And so what other questions? Limited hours too, I should have said that.
Lynn, how are you sanitizing between uses of free weights or equipment? Because like we just don't know like what dwell time is for all the sanitation products.
Are we sanitizing or with what? I didn't hear that quite well.
Sorry, what's your like sanitation protocol between equipment use with free weights and equipment like the high touch area?
So the user is instructed where there's guidelines. It's all on our website. If anyone wants to look it up, they're encouraged to only be there 60 minutes, and they're obviously told that they need to clean before and after they use equipment. So we have ERC gym wipes in there to do that. Then I have 2 attendants in that area, which is a lot for that area. And they have bottles of Rejuvenol, which is a product that facilities has provided us that is supposed to be the product of choice, at least on our campus. And they come in behind and wipe everything down again. And I've had to explain to them that in the past, we used to just kind of wipe down the sweaty seat or the sweaty back of something. But now we have to wipe the lever that you adjusted the seat on and all those pieces. And so is it perfect? There's no way it's perfect. Some of that onus has to be on the user. If I were using it, I would wipe down everything before I touched it. So.
Lynn, I have a question. How did you communicate your opening out to your students, faculty, all of that?
At CMU, our campus as a whole launched a campaign this week called Safe Together, Strong Together. And it's a community effort initiative to work to kind of close the past chapter and move forward to the new chapter of opening campus this fall. We're aligned with hospitals and lots of healthcare professionals. And so the president sent out an email Monday. We actually thought it was going to be Friday, so we were prepared to open at 6 a.m. Monday, but it didn't come till closer to noon. So we just waited. And so when that email went out, it announced that we would be opening, and also the bookstore, I believe, who is the only other place open so far. So it was announced in that, and then we immediately had a link to the website with the protocol so everybody would know. This went to students, faculty, everyone. And probably within, I think I remember maybe 20 minutes, we had our first people walking in, Michael, I think. And so we also did a video. Marketing came over that morning and did a video with Rowdy, our mascot, and we pushed that out on Instagram. That didn't get pushed out till yesterday, but we made posts that day saying that we were open. And so word traveled pretty quickly. But it was mostly with that large effort on the president's part was kind of the main announcement of it.
Awesome.
Lee and Anthony from University of Central Arkansas, you have a 60-minute maximum workout time. Do you have like reservations, or how do you guys track that?
No, and we haven't had to enforce it, honestly. I've seen lots of dialogue and listened to that about the idea of a reservation system, and that seemed like an awful lot of brain damage, and we weren't sure exactly how we were going to manage that, so we have not done it, and at this time I don't think that's necessary. What that would look like in the fall, I don't know. It might be necessary then, but we haven't even really had to ask anyone to leave because we haven't hit capacity. I believe at the max, I've had 21, I think we saw in there at the most at one time, and so it just seems to be kind of working. I think we've had the most we've had in a day. On Tuesday we had 125 people in the gym. You know, this is finals week, so a lot of them are moving. Anybody that's still here, leases are up. They're starting to. So I think our numbers are going to be small, and so it kind of has managed itself that way. So. I see a question. Are they allowed to bring in small bags? Yeah, if you carry it around, you can. We're not, we're pretty much no touch. We have no cash. We're not checking in bags at the kiosk. You're not allowed to change in the locker rooms. And you're not allowed to use the day use locker. So if you had a small cinch sack of your own things, we wouldn't care if you carried it around, but we're not doing towel service. We're not taking your bags. Pretty much completely free of touch. How do you track the number of members? We came up with a number just looking at equipment that 30 was about how many we could fit in the space because we were just opening a part of the gym. And I'd ordered hand counters that didn't come in on time. And so Michael, who's on this call with us as well, he had the brilliant idea to borrow the wrestling timing clock. And so we literally have a wrestling timing clock sitting on the counter, and they push it up, you know, for the score portion, they push it up or down as people come in or leave. And so as you're walking in, you can go, oh, there's only 17 people in there right now, but that's how we keep track of it. And it's actually worked pretty slick.
Just a quick question with that. I know that there are some Fusion reps on the call. So if you use Fusion, that entrance and exit live statistics in the building, I don't know if anyone has looked into that, maybe what the capabilities are of that, or tried to implement anything so far at universities, or if the reps could talk a little bit more to it with developments on that.
This is Empathy from Innosoft. I can talk a little bit about it. We're still developing a counter to show you at facility access if people have come in or out and like how many that would be, and then the ability to also adjust that. So if we realize, one, most facilities don't have exit swipes, but if you do, great. But also, even if you have them, a lot of people just tend to walk out anyway and not swipe their card, and they get out without that. So giving you the ability to adjust the number, if you do a manual count, like you guys have mentioned, going through each room and seeing how many people are in here right now, being able to adjust that. Either, you know, if you see someone walk out and they don't swipe their card, you can click down to show current capacity. Or if you do a count and you realize that they're, you know, in the facility, not 25, then you could just type that number in as well. So that will be for our next release.
That would be wonderful. I was just trying to work that problem out with my director yesterday.
Coming very soon.
All right, so we got a really good question about altering pricing due to reduced capacities, not having certain specific areas open. If your pool is closed, your climbing wall is closed, basketball courts are closed. What are y'all doing with that? Are you changing it, keeping it the same? I know for us,
is that a question of me?
I think just of everybody. I know at Clemson, we're probably only going to reopen with faculty, staff, and students at the start. And so students, we're only allowed to charge them one fee, so that won't be an issue, but we don't have
at CMU, we have not changed our rate, even though it's an amended offering. The rate is the same. And so if you're an alumni or faculty, you can choose to have a membership or not, but we don't have a prorated amount.
I think we kind of talked about this maybe, Victoria, in our first roundtable. It's like one of those things, like, do we adjust our pricing just because we're doing like remodeling in the building, where certain areas would be closed? I kind of would still follow the same thought process on that. But I do wonder what pushback we're going to get from our members for like when, you know, renewal periods come up and things like that, if they're not allowed to use the full access of the facility. Is it more going to be they're just not going to renew at that time until we have a fully open facility? Or is it that they're going to ask for discounts? I think that's for us when we decided to like add that coupon into our deal for our current members. That was kind of our thought process, that it was kind of a goodwill measure to say, like, we understand not everything is full right now, but we still want you here, so here's a coupon for a little bit of a discount, but not changing the pricing structure for anyone who would be new coming in. Amanda, just so you know, yes, these are all recorded and posted on the NIRSA Ideas in Motion page. It's underneath the Connect tab, so it's also on YouTube, so you can definitely share it with your staff.
At Southern Oregon, we discussed changing our prices because we will have limited hours when we first open. One thing that we need to do before we adjust our prices is run it by our student advisory committee that governs the facility. I was wondering if anyone else has a student advisory committee that governs their facility or anything like that. While the professional staff manage the facility, we run it by the students for our pricing. It does put us in an interesting and sometimes in a bind for that, because we have to wait for those meetings. If we're not able to have a meeting, then we will just make the decisions on our own. The management will run it by the advisory committee during the fall, but it is just an interesting situation that we find ourselves in at this time, especially.
Hey, Melissa, this is Jeremy at the University of Kansas. We're student fee funded, so yeah, any rate increases do need to be approved by our student advisory board and student senate and all of those types of things. We're fortunate that our student senate has temporarily approved no increase in that fee, at least a membership fee or kind of a student fee, a rec fee. At this time, we're not anticipating any changes to our rates, membership rates, reservation rates, anything like that. But similarly, if we were to explore that, yeah, ours would have to go through that student senate approval period as well.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Christine from Purdue. I appreciate your comment as well.
What else do y'all want to talk about today? I know it's Thursday, weekend's almost here.
Somebody did put in the chat, and I'm interested as well. What are you, for those that are only permitting faculty and staff and students to start, what are you doing to maintain your community members, alumni, affiliates while they're not able to utilize your facility?
I think for Clemson, we don't have any intention of discontinuing a lot of the virtual programming that we've been offering. So the classes that we've been doing online and stuff like that, we're going to continue to offer those. So I think that's a way to keep them engaged. We have some of the cheapest rates around. So I think even if they signed up for a Golds or 24-hour fitness or whatever, they would eventually in the long run come back. Clemson is kind of just a very tight-knit community. So our alumni in particular really, really want to come. We're only one of like 3 places that has a pool. One is a YMCA that just opened up. So I anticipate we're going to lose people to that regardless because it's a brand new, beautiful facility. The other one is not so big and not so beautiful. So we don't really lose people to them. But I think it's just going to be something we have to write out. For every person we lose, there's going to be another alumni, another person moving into the community, somebody else that needs a convenient and close place to work out. And I know we've gotten feedback from like our students, faculty, and staff that they don't come and use our facility because it's so overcrowded. And so limiting the members could really bring in a lot more of our students, faculty, and staff who are kind of our focus anyways.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point for us at Oakland. Like, we have made a decision not to open our pool, and our pool is an Olympic-sized pool. So we have very specific user groups for that. And so we are trying to figure out a way right now that we're going to be able to, bring them back once we reopen, and also communicate adequately ahead of time with them to let them know that this is what is happening. We're trying to kind of, wait until we have some official guidelines from the government here in Michigan. However, like, we are still planning on keeping that area closed because we're not going to have locker rooms or anything like that. So I definitely think there needs to be some planning about how, if people are going to close it off to their community, if they want their community back. Just remember, it costs a lot more money to get new members than retain your old ones. So we're working through that right now at Oakland of like what our process is going to be for those people that maybe also just don't feel comfortable coming back.
So Ben Justice mentioned or asked about a sportsmanship agreement and a new agreement for the social distancing. Am I correct in that question? I know that we have an assumption of risk form that members need to sign before they have access, and they must agree to our guidelines, our general guidelines. And we are going to have a set of special guidelines that members are going to need to sign that talk about the social distancing, that talk about the cleaning of the machines, and anything during this time when we have so many regulations to keep everybody safe during this. So we're going to have a special set of guidelines specifically for this situation at SOU.
We've definitely talked about changing our waiver. Melissa, are you planning on using like Fusion forms or waivers for that? Are you going to do paper documents?
We are actually going to put it in Fusion, but we're also, I'm working on, actually, I do have a question. Is there a way, we are wanting to put it on Fusion and have them sign it, but after they sign our forms, I want an email to go to the patrons so they also have a copy of what they signed, because as we all know, people just want to sign it and go. So I want them to have a copy of it as well before they, when they come in.
I think I understand. If it's a facility access waiver, I don't think that it emails them.
Okay.
But
I
can
will
look
need to
into
find out a
that,
way
yeah.
to do that then.
Yeah, we'll take a look.
Okay, thank you.
Jumping in real quick, Melissa, the closest I've been able to find within Fusion would be to create a different membership profile that would be like COVID specific, which would then have to go to whatever membership base you're going to allow into your facilities. So for us at Ohio State, we're thinking of like, okay, do all students now have to do another waiver? And that would be potentially a huge headache for all parties involved.
Yes, yes.
But is that something that if you're utilizing their online member portal, you could just require it and just send an email out to them saying, hey, before your first visit, please make sure you read and sign this online? That may limit some of the like backup when you first get into the facility. Just an option.
That is a good option too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
MC, if they sign a digital waiver online, does that get stored anywhere on their online member profile, or is it only on the desktop application?
I believe it's only desktop. If you have them register for a program, it will send them a copy of the waiver, and they can access it online as well to see that copy. At least I think they can. Either way, they get the email right when they register.
Maybe that's a workaround too. Maybe you've got a COVID program. Yeah. And everybody has to sign that waiver. So.
And maybe it has some language about the social distancing guidelines that you're putting into place and everything like that, so that they understand what program they're signing up for. I know Lynn talked about it a little bit, and I know it was talked on, I think there was a Connect post about this as well. So are people going to do across the board social distancing guidelines, or are they going to make exceptions for family members or things like that?
We haven't, just because of the difficulty of it.
Mm-hmm.
People have been pretty respectful of that, and I suppose if I see two people come in, we've been a little bit loose maybe as they walk in, it's because they've walked in together. But once they're in the building, we've just explained that you really need to try to spread out. And are we measuring that everyone's 10 feet apart? No, but I'm hoping for 6, at the best. But we just explained that once you're in there's no way for staff to know who's connected to who. And I just think that would be really difficult to manage. It's just kind of the way of the world. And if there's ways to do that, I'd be curious to hear it from others who might try that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We're so focused on this 10 feet, but if everybody is at the edge of their 10 feet, then they're not 10 feet from each other anymore. They're right next to one another. So, or it could be less than that. So.
Yeah, I think it was maybe University of Arizona that put out a question on the board about it. And I don't think they were planning on doing any exceptions. I personally would think that it would be very hard to create an exception in that situation for people who are family members, just like you were saying, Lynn. But I was just wondering if anybody thought about that. And it's nice to hear that you're not getting very much pushback if you guys are saying something to them. So I guess that's an encouraging thought on that.
The numbers have been more manageable than I think we thought. I mean, numbers are always down in summer, obviously. Mm-hmm. And even though they'll kind of come back up, that week of finals and the first week after school's out is usually probably our lowest. So that might have even made it a better time to start, but it's been the flow has been pretty consistent, and but that portion easier than we thought.
I think at Southern Oregon, one challenge that we're going to run into, or customer service opportunity, as I like to call them, are the athletes that come in and they don't live together and they're not roommates and they want to work out together. A lot of times the coaches will assign workouts and they come into our facility and do them, and they spot each other, they work out in the same groups, they do circuit training. And for our first phase, we're not going to allow circuit training, and we are actually going to monitor the social distancing. It has been asked of our VP of Student Affairs to do that. So I think the athletes will be our biggest challenge coming in at first, but we are going to take steps to communicate to the athletic department and the coaches so they can pass that message on to their student athletes before we open.
There is a question about how, sorry, Lynn, we're putting you on spot today, but there is a question about how your student staff is handling everything. Do you have any insight on that? Are they feeling comfortable with what they're doing? And then if not, how are you guys mitigating their, you know, anxiety, I guess?
First, I just want to say I do have to cut out to another meeting in a few minutes. So, but Michael Hughes is on here, even though it says Lynn Wilson on his picture. So he can answer any questions on behalf of CMU once I have to step away. I think Michael would agree with me that the staff A is super anxious to be back to work. So very anxious to work. I think it has been a little hard for some of them to, I mean, it's always been hard for 20-year-olds to enforce policies with their own peers. You know, dress code's always been an issue, that sort of thing. But now when it's, when there's less people out there and you're kind of hounding them like you're too close together, you need to social distance, or no, you're not allowed to spot, particularly a few male employees who want to lift with friends spotting them. He's like, well, it's just really hard to do that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you have to enforce it. So I think the challenge for Michael and I will be managing our student staff. I think that's probably our biggest thing in this. I think the patrons coming in are going okay, and I think the screening process is going okay. Next week when we shift to the other side and we have to really tell people, I'm sorry, you cannot go down into that lifting area because there's already 3 people down there. There's this one very small Olympic lifting area. That's going to be tougher for them. So they're anxious to work, but I think they understand the new protocol. They're fine with the masks, but they're enforcing, I think, it's going to get old for them. You know how everybody comes in gung-ho and then things fade. But I think it's going to be a management issue of just staying on it more than ever, because things will start to lax. Part of CMU's challenge as well, and I would assume we're not the only university, is we've redeployed a lot of our professional staff into other areas. Michael would be an example of that. He's not available to the rec 100% of his time because of other duties and financial aid now. And so here we're open, we're tasked with that, yet Michael's not as available. So it's, even though we're only open on a small level, we have new things to watch. So, but staff as a whole is excited to be there. And a lot of them have great attitudes, you know, most of them have a great attitude about it.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh, and Michael changed his name now, so now he's Michael on there. I see that.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that was like, wow, she is a master multitasker.
We're very impressed there, Lynn.
No.
We're impressed.
Don't be. My biggest advice to everybody before I have to step away is that you just have to realize it's been exhausting, but you have to realize that literally everything changes by the hour of the day. Like we've gone back and forth. The health department said we can open and we can open on this day, but wait, we're not going to open because the president wants to make the announcement. Or is it 10 feet? Is it 6 feet? And then the county had to update their order because it was vague. And then we hear another gym across town's doing it differently. So that makes it harder for us. And it took some time for the statement from the county to align, but it's every day. What we told our staff when we trained them last week was, you got to understand that Michael and I are making these answers up as we go. Like who none of us in this group have managed a gym under these protocols. And so, you know, just, it's going to change and it's going to wear you out. You're going to make a sign and 5 minutes later, you're going to make a different sign. But it's what we do.
Thanks for all your feedback and insight. That was very, very helpful.
You're welcome. Good luck out there.
Thank you.
Ask us next week what we're whenever we do this again, you can ask us then what our next struggles are, since we're a step ahead, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, all eyes are on you guys, right? So
yes.
So has anybody had to make modifications to like their check-in area? I saw some chatter earlier about one way in, one way out, entry, exit type stuff, but are your departments having plexiglass installed, any sort of barriers, alternating turnstile usage, that type of stuff?
So at SOU, once again, we are going to invest in some plexiglass sneeze guards, and we're going to close one of our turnstiles. We have two. We're going to close one of them and have one entrance because they have to check in. Instead of using hand scanners, they're going to be checking in, and then we're going to have one exit gate open, and there's going to be a sanitation station going out and one coming in. So we're definitely going to be kind of monitoring and forcing the flow of our patrons. Like they can go up one set of stairs, but they have to come down another and everything. So our entrance will have some modifications.
At Purdue, our entry is located kind of in the middle of the walkway right now, closer to our member services desk. And we implemented like sliding yourself in or using your barcode scanner a couple weeks before we close. But now we're wondering for sneeze guards, if anyone else, we're going to protect the front of the counter, but we're not so sure about the sides and like what we should do about that. How do we like close these people in, but not into a telephone booth? So if anyone has any recommendations, that would be wonderful.
So I'm not sure. Hi guys, I'm Michael Hughes, the Assistant Director at CMU, and I don't know if Lynn shared this information with you guys already, but we do have plexiglass put up just kind of at our, where our computers sit. And so we have 3 different workstations at our front desk. One is where people come in, scan their cards, and so we've extended, you know, the scan-in card or the fusion gun so you can use your barcode beyond the plexiglass, so our students aren't handling any of the campus cards or anything like that. And then we have kind of an area where there is no plexiglass, but that's also where we're trying not to have our staff stand as well. And it's really where we have just different types of signage so people coming in can see that. Then where we have our computer where we sell memberships or take payment, we've extended our credit card machine outside of the plexiglass as well. We're working right now with internally to try and get a wireless credit card machine to help facilitate with that as well. We're also trying to go cashless, so we're not accepting cash. What we were able to do too with Fusion was just with our memberships, we were able to extend anybody that had basically expired while we were closed. And I know a number of different universities have probably done the same thing. So we're really not selling a whole bunch of memberships right now, which is really nice. We were able to extend those. We actually gave our patrons 5 extra days just because we knew, you know, they're not all going to start coming in again on Monday. And so we're giving them a few extra days there. We have one entrance only down one hallway and then one exit out of the building. We've automatically locked the doors basically on our south entrance just so students or patrons can't come in that door. And then we have signage that just says you need to use the east entrance and then you need to exit. And then we have stanchions all over the place just trying to kind of help facilitate people to get in and out the way they're supposed to. And so that's kind of some of the things we've done at our front entrance.
Thank you.
I just have this fear. We're doing all this directional signage, making sure people go to one way. And then I think about when I go to the grocery store and I'm like, ugh, I don't want to go this way down that lane. I want to go the other way.
Oh, I think it's definitely going to be a behavioral thing on top of just knowledge and information for sure. So.
Anthony, that's interesting that you're propping all the doors. We've talked about that too, about whether or not we're going to have like our fans in our cardio hallway on, whether that's just going to circulate bad air or if we need that to circulate things away. Propping doors, having them exit a different location than our main entry exit point.
So I guess with our entrance, we kind of look out. We actually have the automatic sliding doors, so you can come in and out of those, and that will be our other one. I've talked with another college in town, and they were saying they were going to literally prop open like every door in the building. So that'll be interesting from that standpoint. The main thing we're talking about is like the locker room, bathroom doors. That's the main thing that we're going to prop open.
We're going to prop open
the fire code issue as well with some of our doors, the fire rated doors that have to stay closed, or
We're going to prop open doors, as many doors as we can without breaking fire code, especially our entrance. We have two doors at our entrance, or two sets of doors, one that opens into a vestibule and then one that opens into our facility. And we're just going to prop open the doors that come into our facility, not the ones that lead to outside. And our locker room doors, I believe that's all we're going to be able to, and to our track, that's all we're going to be able to prop in our facility.
Okay, so I'm gonna read this out loud because I hadn't thought about it. Michael, those foot door pulls, that is a great idea. I see them all the time in restrooms and I'm like, whoa, those are so great. We should have those everywhere, but I didn't think about that at all until you just typed it out.
Yeah, we're trying to do that actually across campus. And so I don't remember who brought it up to us originally, but we pretty much said we're on board. So whenever we can get those installed, and we haven't had them yet. So right now we're just trying to prop as many doors as we can.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat about locker rooms and what if people are having them open during their first phase. I know some people are answering right now. I know at Oakland University, we are not going to have them open except for restroom use only. So we will have some things marked off. And then we are also going to be having our members, because their lockers are currently full, come in, and we're going to figure out a clean out process for that. So all of our lockers will not be accessible during at least our first phase.
At Clemson, we're closing ours down as well, but we're closing it down completely, to my knowledge, or at least that's what we've talked about, because we're not going to have our pool open at that time either. And we have so many other restrooms stationed throughout the facility. It's not going to be an issue of, you know, where can I go? But more of just, you come in with what you've got. You're not going to change. You're not going to shower, that type of thing, at least for our first opening phase.
For folks who are opening their pool in the first phase, you'll want to check with your state code. Illinois does not allow you to open your pool without lockers and toilets available. So that's something to pay attention to.
Yep, definitely. So we have day use lockers throughout our facility, and we haven't really, or at least I haven't heard a lot of conversation about what we're doing with those just yet. So does anybody else have lockers outside of their designated locker rooms, and what are your plans for those?
Yeah, Justin Ellerbe here from University of Nebraska-Lincoln. So we have day use lockers spread out throughout our facility, both different kind of metal and glass. Really, it's at that point we're having conversations about, do we want to send our staff to do just a quick wipe down every few minutes, just because we do have so many sanitation wipes, or do we just want to say, just bring what you have and then kind of just go with what space is available. Obviously, like I said, they are spread out throughout the building, so monitoring which ones are being used and how frequently is a difficult task. So like I said, this is still very much open conversation with us. It does seem like we're leaning towards, you know, just bring in the necessities on what it is that you exactly need for what designated workout you have at the time. And then we'll revisit that conversation depending on what our stair step approach looks like as we trickle back into letting more people into our space and what that looks like.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point there about day use lockers. Justin, obviously, I know the layout of Nebraska a little bit. And with the ones that are all across the building, I would wonder if maybe a way to use day use lockers would be limiting which day use lockers people can use. So having only a couple banks open so you know exactly where to clean instead of having to kind of search throughout the entire building to go and look for if someone's used it or not. I know for us at Oakland, like that was a conversation that actually we hadn't had, and it just came up the other day. And ours are also all over the building, but mainly in 3 banks. So we're going to see what we can do. But the conversation about people just bringing what they have, like let's say it's a commuter student on campus and they have a backpack, how do you like limit that person from bringing that in? Maybe their parent dropped them off on campus, you don't know. So I think that's a really good conversation to have. Christine, would you mind talking about your guys' locker retrieval process a little bit? For those of us who still have people in the locker rooms that need their stuff.
Sure. So we did, this is kind of been a hot topic for us. A lot of people have been emailing lately because a lot of our lockers expire this week with graduation on Saturday. So we have about 1,400 people that have lockers expiring. Not everybody's leaving campus, but we sent out a sign up genius. So at first we were trying to manage the emails back and forth, and we were like, we need something that's going to help work for us right now. So we sent that out. I will note that when you send it out, you get 150 emails back probably within 20 minutes of people signing up for the wrong time or not knowing their locker. And then from there, you can actually export it. And if they know their locker, we just verify it in Fusion. But so we took that route of doing it. We offered 10-minute time slots throughout each day, this week and next week that we're offering. And what we've been doing is we take, for our locker cleanouts in general, we have like brown paper bags that we put stuff in. So we go through and have 2 professional staff members. It's kind of hard to like social distance when you're doing this, but somebody will open it and someone stands back with a clipboard and writes down all of the items you're taking out of the locker and putting into it. And then we staple that to the brown paper bag, and then we write their name and their pickup time. And then upon the pickup time, we meet them outside and ask them to bring a photo ID and a pen. So the pen they use to sign off on saying, yes, everything you said was in my locker is in here, and basically not coming down the road saying we stole something from them or missed it. And then their photo ID, it's kind of funny. They show us, and from afar, it's a little bit more difficult to see, but we're always wearing gloves if we have to bring it closer. So it's going really well. We've just encouraged people, if you're returning to campus or not leaving Purdue, please keep your items in your locker and don't take up these times, because we really wanted to keep them reserved for graduates. But we haven't been able to really check and make sure everyone's graduating. That's truly picking up, but it was a way for us. I think right now we technically have 18 slots a day that we offer. We offer between noon and 4 p.m.
Awesome.
You're not actually allowing them into the facility. You're cleaning it out and like doing a curbside pickup type thing.
Yep, our campus didn't want us letting individuals in, so we are doing just a curbside pickup, kind of like a little restaurant is what we tell people, except there's no food inside, or you hope there isn't.
Gosh.
You've done locker cleanouts, you know it's a good possibility.
There's a good possibility. There's a shaker bottle with some old protein in it. So. Anything else? We're kind of coming up on our last 12, 10-ish minutes. If anybody has any questions that, you know, they just want answered or are contemplating some things that maybe they don't know yet.
Follow up from previous calls.
I know there was a question in there about when people's opening dates are. Does anybody have opening dates set that they know for sure they're, well, nothing's for sure, but they're intending on opening? Or is it just kind of fluid at the moment? For us, it's fluid at the moment. We're not sure. It's going to depend, obviously, if stay at home gets extended yet again.
Our county in Southern Oregon, Jackson County, has been approved to start opening. So SOU's rec center, probably, I'm hoping for June. I don't know when in June though. It all depends on how much staff I can get to come back to Ashland and work for me.
So we have about 145 students that live on campus right now. Most of them are international students. And we are looking at a June 8th opening for just them, limited access in the facility. And then the next phase by the university is a July 5th phase. And we are then going to add employees from that standpoint. And of course, you know, it's all tentative.
Michael Fowler, you asked about multiple facilities and how you're doing those openings. That is something that we've been talking about recently at Clemson, because we do have two. We have one that is a students only facility, and then we have our main rec center on campus that's had all of our community members, alumni, all that good stuff. And so we're going to kind of split the day almost, where in the morning our facility for everybody will be open, and then we'll shut it down for a couple hours to do all of the cleaning. So we'll keep staff on but close the building. And then the second half of the day will just be the facility for students only and have that open. And then our third facility is our outdoor education center. And so I'm not really sure what they're doing with that, but I'm sure they'll reopen. It's in the middle of a big, beautiful beachfront. So anybody else have multiple facilities that they're navigating, opening all at once? Not at all, one or the other? No?
I know here at University of Nebraska, we do have multiple facilities. We have our outdoor venture center, our rec and wellness center, as well as our city campus. So within the locations, a lot of the conversation piece right now is regarding reservations, right? So do we want to put out some sort of reservation system through our online portal saying, go in, sign up for these times for this specific space, and setting like a max number or max count per person per area, and seeing what that looks like. But right now it really is just, okay, with our planning for our big red welcome with our incoming freshman class or incoming first year classes, what does that look like? Are we going to be able to navigate some of more of our spaces on campus, utilize our unions, some of our academic buildings, and what do those logistics look like? So that's kind of that's the stage planning where we're at right now.
Real quick for any outdoor people, I think it was in the chat a little bit earlier. Are there anybody that is going to be opening up their like rock walls and things like that in phase one? Or is that something that, I mean, there's a lot of touch points obviously with a rock wall. So just wondering if anybody has decided that.
I know we won't be. We have a freedom climber too, and that'll be roped off.
Our assistant director of outdoor programming is working on opening the climbing wall during phase one in our facility. He's been working with the Climbing Association and going to a lot of AOR meetings and roundtables as well, and meeting with a lot of his colleagues in that field, and measuring the space yesterday with the physical distancing that we have. We see that we can only fit 10 people in that space. And if we allow top rope belaying, it'd only be 5 people up on the wall and then people belaying. Our assistant director of outdoor programs says that he's probably only going to allow bouldering during that time though. And they will have pretty stringent sanitation stations and guidelines for the climbing wall.
Awesome, good things to know. Okay, well, I think we're wrapping up on time. If anybody has any last questions, we can get them in there real quick. If not, it's been really great doing this with all of you. I know I don't want to speak for the other three, but I pretty much think we all have the same sentiment. So we really appreciate all of the interaction that we've had with you guys, and thanks for all the ideas, and we hope to see you all soon.
You've all been great with everything that you've added to this, and I have so many notes that I've given to my director, and it's helped me get prepared for our reopening. So thank you all for that.
And if we want to keep the conversation going, feel free to use the NIRSA Connect online, send out those blasts and emails. You can find all of our contact information there too. So not sure if we'll do another one of these calls, but you can definitely still stay in touch with us and keep that motivation going.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks everyone. Great to see you. Have a great day and be safe.
Yes.
Happy weekend. Almost.
Happy weekend.
Today's my Friday.
Yay. Bye everyone.